One of the secrets of really powerful and effective scripts is vivid characters. Characters that come alive first on the page and then on the screen. And if you think back to your favorite movies, whether they're classics like Citizen Kane or The Godfather or more recent movies, most likely you remember the characters even better than you remember the plot. Now the interesting thing is that a lot of times the characters that I see in scripts written by writers, newer writers especially, are kind of flat. They don't really come alive. And yet when you ask people, who are the memorable people in your own life? People you've encountered along the way, maybe your grandparents or a teacher or somebody you work with. They very quickly come up with a series of details that make those characters or those real people come to life to the person who's hearing about them. In fact, we did that, and here are a couple of examples.
The most unique and memorable person?
My friend Maggie.
Leona is her name. She's 105 years old.
One of the more, I suppose, quirkier people I've ever met is one of my dad's friends.
A guy called Tony Hadlington, who used to be my line manager. An ex-army guy, shaved head, covered in tattoos.
I met her, first of all, at hospital. She had 3 children, and I saw her across the waiting room, and she just looked very beautiful. She had very long curly hair, and she had a backpack with a baby.
Well, the fact that she's lived 105 years old is the main thing, but she's very stubborn. I'm a physician, and she's my patient. She doesn't listen to anything I tell her. So.
And he had a lot of sayings, strange sayings that he picked up from all over the place, from his time in the army, from books he'd read.
She was at the hospital because her middle child was Down syndrome, and I was there because I just had a handicapped child as well. And she, as I say, I was attracted because she looked so beautiful. And then I got to know her, and she's been very inspirational in my life. She has stayed at home to home tuition for all of her children, and she's a vegan, and she has now become a childminder, and she has a very large social network, I think mainly because she's so kind and so patient. She's quite political and goes on lots of demonstrations, and is very aware both on a personal level and on a political level.
He could be quite aggressive, but at the same time he could be quite nice. It's kind of like a mixture of 2 people put together, almost. So sometimes he could be thoughtful, and other times he could be a right pain in the arse.
So the most memorable person I know is someone who I met at university 3 years ago in Manchester. She's about 5 foot tall, bright ginger hair, always smiling, always happy. Reminds me always of a Furby, I guess.
He's not lost that Glaswegian charm, let's put it that way. We were on my stag do in Berlin last year, and it was the only civilised part of the trip when we went for actually a sit-down meal, which is unusual on a stag do. And we were having some steaks and a bit of wine, and somebody asked Ronnie how the wine was, and he said, well, yeah, it's okay, but I wouldn't get my cock and knock the heat out of one, and that's. In a civilised setting, that was his typical Ronnie, and I suppose that's just his quirkiness and his lack of self-awareness sometimes, but that's the most quirkiest person I can think of at the moment, yeah.
So I think by watching those and just hearing those very brief descriptions, you started to get a real sense of those people being alive and having certain quirks and certain characteristics that distinguish them from other people. And so that's what we really need to do when we write screenplays. And one of the ways you can do that is to access your own memories of memorable people that, as I said, you encountered somewhere along the way, either far back or as maybe yesterday, and use some of those characteristics, put them together, of course, in new combinations. And in your script, make sure that you describe some of those quirks, describe these people using different senses, because remember, although in the event of the movie being made, it'll be the actors and the directors and so on who will be making these things come alive, the characters move and so on. But before that, you're writing a selling script, not a shooting script, a selling script. And that script has to come alive in the mind of the person reading it, because you want them to get excited, you want them to offer you money or to say, well, I'll back this movie. And for that to happen, they have to really experience the characters and the plot. And for that to happen, you need to make those characters come alive.